This is exactly what I do with my clients. I just use the same skill set and I transfer it into my communication in how I sell.
Hello and welcome back to the Herbal Skillshare Marathon. In this session, we are going to be hearing from Denise Van Nooten, who has really mastered that skill of reaching out, attracting people into her herbal business and allowing them to go down that journey to find out what her herbal products are about and how they can help them. She really does know how to connect with people, how to draw connections, and she shares a lot of applicable ways of how you can implement that in the way that you interact with potential customers going forward as well. So let's get right started. Denise, go for it.
Yeah, so I am naturally an extrovert. So I like to talk. I like to be in people's faces. But I think one of the things that really is helpful to me is that my background is in retail. So I did retail investigations for over 15 years. So when you think about investigations, part of me communicating and talking to people is me really assessing them and looking at their body language. I'm looking at their nonverbals. And so I also have to be able to build and establish trust with the person that I'm interviewing in an investigation. And in addition to that, I have years of background in operations. So understanding processes and understanding methodologies and how things work. So I use those transferable skills in festivals and any type of event. So I naturally gravitate towards people by using those skills. So I want you to know that you don't necessarily have to have a retail background, but think about the skill sets that you have naturally. Think about who and what you are innate as a person. Are you an extrovert or are you an introvert? What kind of personality do you have? And bring those skill sets to your specific events and find a way to transfer those skills into communicating with people. One of the first things that I do is making sure that I have a positive attitude. When I first attended an event, I knew that I was very nervous and very scared because I was out of my element. And I was also fearful as to whether people were actually going to make any purchases and would I be able to even speak about my products? And so it was very nerve wracking for me to say, well, okay, so somewhat I rehearsed a little bit and I said, well, okay, here's what I'm going to say. Here's what I'm going to do. Let me think about the herbs. It's a new arena for me. I'm not sure I understand the energetics and everything that I do behind the product. So how can I make that connection with people? And I think one of those things is just making sure that I show with that positive attitude. Sometimes when I go to events, I see people on their cell phones and they're just sitting there behind their desk, or not their desk, sitting behind their table, and then they just look up at the customer and there's no engagement. There's no kind of connection with the customer. So first and foremost, I come with a positive attitude. You have to have a positive attitude in order for you to make connections with customers. And having that positive attitude then transcends to that energy. You have to have energy, right? You can't come to an event, you can't come to a festival, you can't be a speaker if you don't exude that energy. People gravitate towards your positivity, they gravitate towards your energy. And so those things are also transferable, and it helps to make a connection with your audience. So the first thing I do is make sure that I have a positive attitude, whether it's my first time selling or whether it's my fifth time selling, whether I know whether I've connected with these people and this is my audience, or if it's a different arena that I've never been in. I always start with having a positive attitude. After having a positive attitude, I always make sure that I have energy. Gotta have the energy. People really gravitate towards your energy. They see you and it exudes. And when I say energy, I'm not saying bouncing off the walls, but what I am saying is having energy with a smile on your face, showing those nonverbals. Those nonverbals go a long way because when you pass somebody's table, you have that one snapshot moment to make your first impression. And the first impression could be from across someone else's table or across from somebody else's display. And so one of the things I also do with that energy is I make eye contact. So whether you are approaching my table or whether I see you from another table or I see you from a distance, I make eye contact with you. When you see the nonverbals on my face, you see that energy, you see that smile that I have, and you naturally want to gravitate over to more towards my table. And you come next to me and you want to start talking. So making sure, again, having that positive attitude and then also making sure that you have that energy that exudes because it's also transferable. The next thing that you want to do is make sure that you are authentic. I would definitely say you have to be authentic because when you are attempting to make a connection, when you're attempting to get a sale from a customer, because that's the end result, is that you do want to have somebody make a purchase of your product, but you want to connect. And the way that you connect is you connect through authenticity. People can spot somebody that is being salesy or disingenuous in a heartbeat. They see it on your face, they see it in the way that you present your product. So make sure that you're being authentic. And the way that you make sure that you be authentic is find a way to connect with that person. And it may be a connection from something that they're wearing, it may be a connection from something that they're doing, and it may be establishing a connection by asking them questions, asking them what brings them to the particular festival that they're at today. It may be something along the lines of, are you a tea drinker? So I make teas. Are you a tea drinker? What's your favorite tea? What do you like about tea? Now, the other thing that I like to do when I'm at events is I'm also a certified health coach, and my niche is in gut health. So I merge the two. And so when I'm selling, I'm also serving and I'm also educating. So I'm not saying, hey, come drink this tea. It's $2 or it's $15 for per ounce and what have you. The last thing I talk to you about is the price. That's the last thing, because I'm trying to find a connection with you. I'm trying to find out why you're there at the festival, why you're there at the event, and how can I serve you? How can I connect with you? So when I'm sharing information with you about my teas, I'm also talking to you about your digestive health. I'm also talking to you about gut health. So I'm not just talking to you about this specific tea. And so sometimes they may ask me along the lines of, Denise, do you have anything for sleep? And I would say, unfortunately, I don't have anything for sleep, but let's talk about what situation are you going through? What are you experiencing right now? And then I give them unsolicited advice. I coach them. So I use that opportunity to coach my customers when I'm talking to them. And what I find is a lot of individuals that are around me, meaning my neighbors that are selling as well, they always ask me, like, why do you do so much? Why are you always talking? And why are you sharing so much information? And why are you giving so much of a background of what you do? And I share with them, I'm connecting, and it's natural for me to connect with people. So that's my authentic self, in that I'm naturally a coach and I naturally want to serve. And so the authenticity comes through me. And when people see that you're authentic, they are more likely to not only make a purchase, but even more so ask you additional questions. And so that's the place of authenticity that I come from when I'm selling and when I'm serving. So I'm making sure that I'm being genuine and asking questions. I'm making sure that I'm being genuine in my coaching approach. And I'm always merging the two. I'm always merging my coaching abilities with the herbs, because I'm new to herbalism, but I'm not new to coaching. And I'm not new to the retail world. So I play off of that particular skill set. And I know that I don't have all of the insights and all of the information and all of the knowledge, but what I do have is my ability to coach. And what I do have is my ability to listen and my ability to connect. And so again, I use those particular skill sets to offset the fact that I may not be the expert when it comes to herbalism. But then the other piece of what I do is making sure that the products that I do sell over time, I've learned more about those specific products. I've learned more about those specific ingredients, and I've learned more about how to share how my teas are going to benefit somebody from a gut health perspective. And so that helps me to really make a connection with my audience. So you may not be an expert when it comes to herbalism like myself, that's brand new, but I really want you to think about, what are those transferable skills? What are those things that you're really good at, and really bring them to the forefront of when you're going to an event, and play off of those. And the more that you work on it, you will see that it's going to be something that's going to be natural to you, and you'll feel more comfortable and more in your skin in regards to how you present yourself. I can look back on last year when I did my first event, and I had little cue cards. I kid you not. I had my little cue cards with me about each specific tea and what was the benefit of that tea. And I kept it at my table where no one can see it. And when someone came up to me, I would take a glance at it, because I'm like, I don't remember everything about peppermint. I don't remember everything about gotu kola. I don't remember everything about, and I may have said it wrong, gotu kola. I don't remember everything when it comes to elderberry, but I'm like, okay, let me look at my little notes. And the more that I looked at my notes and the more that I got comfortable speaking about it, now I can just say elderberry does this, gotu kola does this, peppermint is for this, etc. And so it's flows off of me really naturally. The more that I practice it, now I don't even need the cue cards. Now I'm like, okay, let's talk about it. Because again, what I use is my coaching skills. So I talk about people's experiences. I talk about, okay, what's going on with you today? What's going on with your personal life? What's going on with your relationship? So I gravitate towards that, and then I infuse the herbalism. And so they don't realize that, okay, she's not the expert. I just have to have 10% of the edge. I just have to know a little bit more than what they know. I don't have to know the whole Bible of herbalism, but I have to know a little bit more than what they know. And I have to make sure that I'm showing up authentic and I'm being genuine. And then I automatically make that connection with people. So that's part of how I go about selling. The next thing I would want to say is I also see people often just sit behind their table, not just talking on the telephone, but they just sit behind their table. I stand up and I come around. I always want to come in front and talk to you. And I'm in front of my table as I'm making a sale or as I'm talking to and making that connection. You will never find me at an event sitting down. And if you do find me sitting down, it may be for 60 seconds and that's about it. So I can count if I'm at an event 5 hours or 6 hours, the most that I've ever sat is maybe 3 minutes. I'm always standing up and I'm always engaging. I'm always coming from around my table. And that's part of how you make that connection. So if you're there to sell, if you're there to serve, and that's the biggest thing, you want to be there to serve and you want to be able to make that connection with your audience, you got to get up off your ass. Sorry if I'm cursing, but you got to get up off your ass and you got to come around from that table and you got to be able to connect with people. You got to be able to talk with people. And if you're shy and if you're an introvert, then the one thing I would say to you is give yourself a goal and say, today, I'm going to at least try out of 10 interactions with customers, maybe 5 of those interactions, I'm going to come from around my table. Give yourself goals, small goals to improve whatever your deficit is or whatever you feel like you're uncomfortable in or whatever you feel like you are. It's a challenge for you. I'll say, yeah, it's a challenge for you. We won't say that it's a deficit. We'll say that it may be a challenge at that particular moment. Give yourself a goal to say, well, okay, I know that I'm always sitting behind this table. If I get 10 customers today, 5 of those customers, I'm going to make sure that I come from around my table and I'm talking to them personally. Then the next goal could be, I know that I'm not good at talking about my products. So I've got 10 products that I'm selling. You know what? I'm going to at least master knowing at least 3 of those products for this event. And then the next event, I'm going to master 5 of those products and then so forth. So give yourself goals every single time that you do an event so that you can improve upon either your presentation or either your connection with the customer or either your ability to know and talk about your specific product. So again, if you're an introvert, if you're somebody that's not comfortable selling and you feel like certain aspects of participating in an event may be a challenge for you, break those individual segments up and identify specifically what goal you're going to attack each time that you go to an event. I think if you give yourself many things to achieve, then that's going to be very helpful for you. And I'm going to show you what I just did. This is exactly what I do with my clients. I just use the same skill set and I transferred into my communication in how I sell. So when I'm coaching clients about improving their gut health, there's no way that we jump all in at one time. We approach it from the standpoint of adapting mini habits, one mini habit at a time. What's the one goal that you want to set for yourself this week? And how are you going to approach that goal? The goal may be to, okay, Denise, I want to drink more water. Okay, the long-term goal is to get to 64 ounces per day. That may not happen in a day. So give yourself a goal. All right, I know I don't drink any water at all, and all I do is drink soda. So the goal is I'm going to start off every single day this week with at least 1 8 ounce of water. Wow, I've mastered that for the week. Then the next week could be I'm going to start off every day of the week with 1 glass of water. And in addition to that, I'm going to have a glass of water with my lunch. So you build upon it, you build upon those habits, and soon those mini habits become lifestyle for you. They become natural, they become something that you're like, oh, wait a minute. I'm drinking water naturally without even thinking about it. It's not a goal, it's something, it's part of me. And that's the same way that you approach selling. That's the same way that you approach when you are participating in events or when you are doing speaking engagements. Think of one mini habit that you can incorporate into your routine or into your methodology, and that will help you to improve that particular skill set. So, one mini habit. So, come around from the table and talk to 5 people if you're going to be selling to 10 people. One mini habit. If you have 10 products that you're selling, master 5 of them or master 2 of them. You are the person that's in control of your goals. So only you know what is a perfect goal for you, but you have to be able to establish goals in order to improve and get results. And so I always focus on one mini habit at a time. When you try to do too much, then it becomes overwhelming, it becomes daunting, and it becomes a distraction. And it also puts you in a position where you feel that there's a lot of self doubt and that you're not able to achieve those things. And so it puts a cloud and a damper on you. So don't allow that to happen. Give yourself small goals, and those small goals will manifest into lifestyle changes. They'll manifest into selling changes. They'll manifest into leadership changes. They'll manifest into transferable skills. They'll manifest into you being a more effective leader, a more effective seller, a more effective communicator. They'll manifest into what you want them to manifest into. But in order for them to manifest, you have got to be able to establish goals. When I think about shifting the conversation from connection to here's what I have to offer to here's the sale, I think what helps is having samples. Having samples for people. Now, you don't have to have a sample of everything. You don't have to have a smorgasbord. So I have about 10 teas that I have at an event, and all I do is bring 2 samples. That's it. And I bring no more than 32 ounces. And my friends say, Denise, you're going to be here all day, but you only have 32 ounces. I say, yeah, my cups are 2 ounces. I offer 1 ounce. So I say to myself, I should be able to give a sample to 32 people. And so therefore 32 ounces is enough. So I calculate it from that standpoint, but I offer a sample. And so how I go about doing it is I tell them, these are my number one sellers. This is my number one seller, and here's why it's a number one seller. This is a number one seller. Here's why it's a number one seller. So I walk them through. I don't necessarily go through all of it, but I tell them what are my number one sellers, and they stay focused on those number one sellers. I said, these 4 right here, I can't keep them in stock because people are always buying them. I said, you know what? But I've got 2 that are here for you to sample. Which one do you want to sample today? I don't even ask them. I mean, I don't even say like, okay, do you want to sample? I say, which one do you want to sample today? They're like, oh, I want to sample the hibiscus lavender mint magic. Okay, you're going to love it. Let me tell you what it feels like when you have it. And so I tell them what they're going to experience when they drink this tea. So it's not just about sampling. I invite them to explore what that experience looks like or what that experience feels like. And I say, you know what? You ever had a peppermint patty? And they're like, yeah. I said, it's just like that. I said, it's a cool sensation. You just feel so chill and so relaxed after you have it. Trust me, you're going to love it. Then I talk about my vitamin C. And they're like, oh, I said, you ever go to Starbucks? I was like, yeah, you spend $9 at Starbucks for those Starbucks refreshers. They're like, yeah. I said, this is better than that. And it doesn't cost $9. And you can have more than 1 cup and it won't go away. And I said, it's got a little tart taste to it. I said, but it's so fruity. And I said, you know what? These teas, you can have them hot and you can have them cold. But I invite them into the experience. So I don't just say, here's a sample. I say, hey, here's the sample, but here's what it's going to taste like. Here's what you're going to get out of it. And 9 out of 10 times they're like, you know what? You're absolutely right. Oh my God, I love this. So drink the tea yourself. Think about what it feels like. And I remember when I was training in herbalism, which I'm still in training because I'm still learning. But one of the things that I learned that before you start making formulas, you want to be able to know exactly how each ingredient tastes, and not just how it tastes, but how it makes you feel. And so I think that is very important. You want to go back to the feeling, the sensation. Where does it take you? So not just physically, but where does it take you emotionally? Where does your mind go? Because sometimes people need an escape or they need some type of relief. And your product may be that source for them. It may be that escape, it may be that relief, or it may be the answer to what they're looking for. And sometimes they won't know it unless you share that with them. You got to take them on that journey with you. And so the way that you take people on a journey with you is provide a sample. So if you don't make teas, that's okay. If you make spices, because I also make spices, I provide a sample and I tell them how they can use it. Oh, you can sprinkle it on your popcorn. You could do this with it. So I help to educate them on how they can use the product and how it will benefit them. But I think having samples, it's a game changer, because when I first started, I didn't have samples and I try to find a way to explain things to people. It's so much easier for them to purchase your product and get the buy-in, so to speak, by having an actual sample and by transporting them into the journey that you want them to take with their tongue, with their mind, with their body. And you knowing how it feels and knowing what it tastes like and giving them an example of that, it goes back to that authenticity. It goes back to that positive attitude. It goes back to that energy, because once you are able to showcase that and demonstrate that, they vibe off of that. They vibe off of all of that energy. So use samples of your product and be able to tell people and transport them into how that product is going to taste and how it's going to feel and what the sensation looks like. And then afterwards, so which one do you want to get? You want to get both? How many can I get for you? You want to get all three? Oh, you know what? I've got a bundle for you. It's 2 for 35. So if you buy 2 for 35, let's go ahead and get that. And that's how I go about doing it. That easy. And then the other piece of it is, depending on what your product is, I also like, I bring this to my events. There it is. There it is. I forgot my webcam is over here. I bring these to the events. All right. So these are the herbs for the teas. And I make sure that they're fresh. So I change them out every couple of months. But people not only like samples, but I open it for them and I allow them to smell it. And we're like, and they smell the freshness of the ingredients. And so that goes a long way as well. So I always let them know, hey, I have it here for you to smell. This is what it smells like. I let them know if I have something that's woodsy or earthy. So I said, okay, when you smell this, it's going to smell woodsy. It's really earthy. These are my earthy type teas. Or these are the ones that have ginger in it. It has fruit in it. It has spice in it. And this is what it smells. And they're like, so it goes a long way. So you want to find different ways to connect with people, connect the product with the person. So if you're able to put your product in some type of mini canister so that they can smell it for themselves, then that's fantastic, because people, they go off of sight, they go off of touch, and they go off of taste. So think about all of the senses that we have. How can you use those senses to capture an even bigger connection with your customer or your potential clientele? So think about what product you have and how can you get them to experience it. So for example, I have a friend, she makes clay earrings. Okay, so the products are already there, but you can actually bring to an event clay itself, so people can see, this is the clay that I make the product in with, and then here's the end result. Here's what it looks like when it's done. So really just sit down and think about, what product do I have? How do I connect my product with a person's sense of smell, sense of taste, sense of touch, because all of those senses help to make a even more bigger connection with the customer. So customers, they love to smell the herbs. Then after they smell it, they love to then sample it. So I really want you to think about those aspects of making an even bigger connection with your customer, because that goes a long way. Let's recap a little bit of what we talked about. So what we talked about is, when you are attending events, the first thing that you want to do is make sure that you have a positive attitude. And that positive attitude shows your nonverbals, your outward appearance. You want to have a smile on your face. You want to be engaging. And especially if you're an introvert, you want to attempt to show that you can connect with people. And so those nonverbals go a long way. All right. So if you're not able to talk as much as I talk, at least be able to show that you have a smile on your face and that you have a positive attitude. Second, we talked about having that energy. You want to make sure that you have energy and you exude energy, because people gravitate towards that. You'd be amazed at, and people ask me this at events, other vendors, they walk up to me and they say, Denise, I've been watching you. And they said, how did you connect with that person? And I say, when I see somebody, I look at them and I'm assessing them. So if they have a dog, I know I've got 2 dogs. I automatically make a connection with them about the dog. And that's me being honest. I'm not going to make up a story about having dogs if I don't have dogs. So I automatically connect with them about their specific their dogs. If I see them from across a room and I see that they're selecting a particular product, I find a way to connect my product or my conversation with what they were actually picking. I ask them questions. How are you feeling today? Oh, I like that blouse that you have on. It's really nice. Where'd you get that from? So it's starting small little conversations with people. And that means that you have to be authentic. So do not be disingenuous and make up things. People can spot that a mile away. Make sure that you're being authentic in your approach. Make sure that you're being authentic in your conversation. And that's how you build a connection with people. And so when other vendors see me, and they come over to me, I share with them exactly what I'm doing. I remember one particular event that I was at. And it was an inside event. And I was at the first table of the entrance of the event. But I was watching people outside and I was watching what they were doing. I was watching what they were selecting. And as soon as they came in, I automatically started speaking to them. So I speak to everybody that comes in an event or anybody that walks by my table. And I automatically started talking to this guy. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love your eyebrows. I'm like, I don't have any eyebrows. Mine are so thin. How did you get your eyebrows like that? And I was being genuine because I loved his eyebrows. And automatically I started talking to him and just having conversation. Now, imagine he would have walked by my table had I not started the conversation with him. But I started the conversation with him and he automatically came over to my table. And I was like, oh, I've got teas. What kind of tea do you like to drink? And he's like, oh, I like such and such and such. I said, oh, well, you know what? Here's what I have to sample today. Do you like chai tea? And I started talking to him about tea. And I was like, oh, I love this tea. And here's how it makes me feel. It makes me feel comfortable. It makes me feel warm. And then what kind of tea comforts you? What makes you feel good? And so I automatically started making that connection with him. And from that, he sampled the tea and then he's like, oh my God, I love this tea. And he ended up picking this one and that one and that one. And we ended up having 3 different teas that he selected. But I showed this person my approach because she was new to vending and she looked at me as if I was the expert. And I was laughing to myself, like, I have not been doing this very long. I've only been doing it for a couple of months. But again, I use my skill sets and I make sure I transfer those skill sets into selling to people every single day. And so she was able to get some insight from that and work on her approach. And I gave her some feedback and gave her some things that she could do to improve her approach in selling as well. So that's where the authenticity comes from in connecting with your potential clientele and your potential customers. And don't be afraid to educate. Don't be afraid to serve because that's what you're there for. It's not just about the sale, it's about serving. If you serve and if you connect and if you're authentic, you're going to get the sale. And if you don't, it's okay. You still served, right? And so if you come with that approach, that authenticity, that energy, that positivity, you can't go wrong. And you always use these opportunities as lessons to grow. You always use these opportunities as lessons to build upon what you experienced previously, or what you can do differently, or what you can improve upon. So, really take advantage of every opportunity that you have to participate in an event and be thankful and show gratitude that they selected you for the event, even though you paid for it. But be thankful that they did select you to be part of that event, and use when you are at that event to improve your skills, improve your connection with customers, but also improve your connection with your vendors, because you can learn from other vendors, but you can also teach other vendors and you can make connections. I've made so many connections with vendors that I've just seen at different events, that I've either bought a product from them, or if they've supported me in helping me with something, or I've made a connection with them somehow, some way. You will be surprised at the connections that you will make when you have events, and it goes beyond selling your product. It definitely goes beyond selling your product. Most recently, I did a 2-day event, and the event was not as successful as I wanted it to be from a financial standpoint. But what I got out of that event was so far more beneficial. I was able to make a connection with the keynote speaker, the CEO of a major beauty brand, and I was able to spend one-on-one time with her, and she gave me some fantastic advice. And then also, I had a customer come up to me, and to make a purchase, and I ended up spending time with her and also with her mom. And I spent time educating and talking to different herbs and so forth. And I talked about travel. I spent about maybe 30 minutes just talking to her. She ended up spending $150 with me. But the bigger picture of it is she just recently reached out to me and asked me to be a speaker at an event at a conference in Seattle, and they're paying for my transportation. They're also paying for my lodging. I'm not getting a speaker fee, but the fact that one, I'm actually going to be going to a conference to speak about gut health and herbalism, and they're paying for my transportation and my accommodations and my hotel. That would not have happened if I didn't make this connection with this person while at this particular event. So it goes beyond selling your product at an event. You can make some long-term connections to grow your business and also to improve how you present and how you speak at events. So I'm so super excited because this is going to actually be my first speaking event. And I can speak because I come from the corporate world, but this is going to be different for me, a different arena. And I'm super excited that I was contacted and approached about doing this. So, oh, but here's the best part about it. I'm actually also going to be providing teas for the conference. So that was super exciting. And that, again, making connections with people and talking with people versus just selling. I just laugh because I really think about when I'm at events, they say, well, how do you make your teas? And then I actually walk them through the process and I talk about the herbs and I talk about the energetics and I talk about the formulas and I talk about the catalysts, et cetera, and so forth. And I remember I didn't know if they were testing me or if they were really being genuine and asking the question. But the more that I talk about it, I get comfortable with it and I get more proficient with it. And so when they walked away, the person that was next to me was a vendor, but she was also my friend. She's like, why did you go through that whole spiel of telling them about that? They don't care about that. And I thought to myself, it doesn't matter whether they care about it or not. I'm coaching. And it's also helping me to be more proficient and more capable and well versed in not only my product, but also the process. I said, so it's okay. And this is what I do all the time. So it helps me. So when I think about where I started to where I am right now, night and day. But it came with practice and it came with establishing a plan. It came with establishing a goal. So you just never know, but make sure that you're always focusing on positive attitude, energy, authenticity, set many goals for yourself, and serve. Come from a place of service.